training environment. Together in a team setting with the workouts being designed to be accessible to people of different fitness levels, as exercises can be modified.
If you and your family were trapped in a secret ritual that was started before you were even born, what would you do? Their entire life is playing out according to someone's sinister plan, and by the time they realize what's going on, it might already be too late. I'm here to break down the mistakes made, what you should do, and how to beat the evil cult in Hereditary. For this unsuspecting family, all hell is about to break loose. On the morning of their grandmother's funeral, this Father Steve wakes up his son Peter to start getting ready, asking him if he's seen his younger sister Charlie. While their mother Annie waits in the car, Steve finds the girl sleeping up in the treehouse after spending the whole night outside. At the funeral home, Annie says some words for her mother, commenting that they had a loving but very distant relationship, and because of the woman's private habits, she hardly recognizes any of the people who came to pay their respects. The family returns to their house once the service is over, quickly getting back to their usual routines. The only person who seems to be feeling any loss is Charlie here, who refuses to talk to or even look at her mother when she comes to check on her. Annie tells the girl how she was always their grandmother's favorite, the woman even insisting on being the one to feed her instead while she was a baby. Nervously, Charlie asks who's going to take care of her now that she's gone. Her mother laughs and says that she will, of course, trying, without success, to talk the kid into crying and letting out her emotions. Looking behind her, she notices the word "said to me" scratched into the wall above her head, but kisses her a few more times and leaves without asking for an explanation. Back in her studio, Annie opens up a box of her mother's things and finds a book titled Notes on Spiritualism. Inside, she uncovers a handwritten message from her mother, asking for forgiveness because, in the end, the rewards will be worth their sacrifice. Stuffing the book back in the box, Annie turns off the lights and goes to leave, but when she looks back, she sees a ghostly vision of her mother standing there in the shadows. She thinks about telling her husband what happened before going to bed, but for some reason decides it's best to just keep it to herself. Okay, this might have seemed like an ordinary funeral, but Grandma, the friendly ghost here, popping in for a late-night visit from the other side is a pretty clear warning sign that something strange is going on in the background. Before we follow the family any farther down the spirit hole, let's take a minute to point out a few red flags that they haven't picked up on and see what we can figure out. Starting back at the funeral home, one of the first things to notice is that Annie and her mother were both wearing the same gold necklace during the service. Since the woman chose to be buried with it, that means that it obviously held a lot of spiritual importance to her. But Annie mentions in her speech that she didn't know anything about her mother's personal beliefs. From what we can, the necklace more closely resembles something you'd see from cultures based in Asia or the Middle East, like Hinduism, Islam, or Judaism. So what exactly does it signify? Annie here might not think that it's important right now, but if it were me, I would have been curious enough to do some research into the symbol and tried to figure out what the old woman was getting into for all those years. Well, the truth is that you won't find it in any of the most widely practiced religions, because it's actually a simplified version of the seal of an extremely powerful occult being. I'll save the specific details for later, but that should immediately give you cause for concern. It looks like Granny was dabbling in practices that you do not want to be getting involved with, which could explain how she has the power to linger on as a spirit even after her death. Things got even stranger when she was tucking Charlie into bed and noticed the word Satoni scratched into the wall above her. Instead of questioning it, her mother decides to just write it off as a product of the kid's quirky behaviors. But personally, I would have wanted to know where it came from and what it means, since that's definitely not a word that you pick up while watching Sesame Street. Although its history is complicated, it's generally believed to be a word of power used in necromancy, the magical practice of communicating with the dead and summoning their spirits. In other words, it's a very concerning thing to suddenly become part of your 13-year-old's vocabulary. Honestly, even without looking it up, just the fact that it sounds an awful lot like Satan is enough to get my attention here. To protect myself and the family, I would have tried hanging a religious symbol like a cross over questioned the kid on where she heard it and why she felt the urge to write it up there on the wall, since there's no way to know who or what she might accidentally invite if she keeps it up. The book about spiritualism is a bit strange, but it's not an immediate red flag. What is alarming, though, is the note from her mother, especially the part about sacrifices being worth it in the end. We don't know what the old lady meant by that just yet, but my gut feeling tells me that it's not good. And seeing her pop up in the shadows when I turned off the lights would have been all that I needed to see before I started taking some action. After all these strange happenings, my first instinct would be to go spend the night thoroughly going through all Grandma's old stuff, and throwing away or locking up anything that looked like it was giving off evil vibes. It's very possible that buried somewhere in those boxes is some evidence that would give me more information about what she was up to, where Charlie picked up that word, and why Granny's spirit is lurking around the house, instead of moving on to that big retirement home in the sky. There's absolutely no way I'd allow so many spooky things to go down the night after her.
I just want to run to Emily's trailer. Do you want to go inside? I took her to, remember those papers you cut up and put on Emily's door? They were still there. I took them. And the little toy of yours. I'll ask him.
Stop, don't. I want a Frosty.
Okay, get your homework done then.
I don't have any homework today. I like a Frosty, a couple nuggets and fries on the side.
Annie seems to be determined to ignore the red flags, so for now, we'll just have to wait.
Fries and nuggets.
Charlie here starts putting together one of her makeshift toys instead of finishing.
Fries and
He
nuggets.
flies into the classroom window.
I'm expecting the dumpster.
Fries and
That's
nuggets.
why the tires all look.
Charlie finds the bird's
It did light up, so I washed it.
Can I see?
I don't know what's in it. Not getting nuggets or any of that.
No, I have it so I can dip it.
Never mind, no. That's
dashing it in her pocket. When
No,
she turns
Pharaoh.
around, she notices
Danny.
a strange older woman waving to her from across the street. While working on her models, Annie starts doing some research on spirits and communicating with the dead. She hears her husband getting in and goes to say hello. But on her way, she notices that the door to her mother's bedroom is wide open. Looking inside, she sees a strange black triangle carved into the floorboards. She asks Steve if he was the one who left the door open, but he says he hasn't gone in there. So they decide to lock up the room just to be safe. Peter comes with a phone. Gravesite was desecrated overnight. When Annie asks him what's going on, he lies and tells her that it was just a billing issue, and she says she's going out to catch a movie. In reality, Annie heads to the local community center where a support group is holding a meeting about coping with the loss of a loved one. When they open the floor to discussion from new arrivals, she hesitantly raises her hand and introduces herself before unloading all of the thoughts that she's been holding back. She explains that things have been difficult because everyone in her family suffers